like to call the meeting to order and start with the pledge.
Yeah. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
All in form. Lloyd Dave.
Here.
Aaron Pavone.
Here.
Bill Studley. Here. JP Constance.
Yeah.
Frank Brown. We don't have any regular business. We did that 2 weeks ago, so I'd like to get right into the old business. With the requested variance for Erica's proposed carport. It will be between Brady Road and Bayview Place. It is a non-conforming lot, so it has a 7.5 foot setback. At the last meeting, it was tabled because there were questions regarding the PDD and if there were any covenants and restrictions applied to that. Doing some due diligence. We weren't able to come up with the original PDD, but we did come up with the restrictions and covenants for Bayview Estate. There was further question as far as whether or not those 3 patio homes were included with Bayview. Mike Campbell felt they were because they were all tied into the same water sewer line and so forth off from Bayview. Janet and Dave Altieri felt that they didn't because they the original Bayview Estates was established with 9 lots and then expanded to 10 for George McCullough. Chris is on the corner now. Okay. After reading the covenants and restrictions for Bayview Estates, it doesn't appear that it would have any real bearing on the matter anyways, and that there was nothing stating that buildings couldn't be constructed within those properties as long as they met the appropriate setbacks for community standards, which I interpret to be the planning board's regs and so forth. So my thought at this point is that we're dealing strictly with the setback variance because there's nothing indicating that there's further governance, and Mike Campbell indicated to me that there were no restrictions and covenant placed when they established that 3-house unit, and I haven't seen anything since then to govern that and change that opinion. So I would like to open it to the public for any comments that they choose to make.
I didn't know if you wanted to know my reasoning and that why I am doing this.
Well, yes, tell us
To
what
give you
you.
that.
Yeah.
So I had originally thought, this was years ago, about putting a garage in, but the garage would definitely not work with the way the road is, right? That came with the place. It's a drive-through pretty much. So over the years, I've thought about a way to make it so it would conform to the property and not make it look too crowded. So I figured with the carport, you have open space, you could still view through, it doesn't obstruct anybody's view. And it would also be in, if you look at the side of the house, it would be peaks that match. And it wouldn't be necessarily in the way, but it would allow me to have, if you look at my lot, it's very weird, right? It would allow me to expand the living space that I have. I thought it would be a way to tidy up, like, if I have my boat trailer in there, I could have it under there, it would be tidier looking. And honestly, there's a safety factor for me since I've been ill. Before I was ill, let's go back to that. One day I backed out of my garage and there was a kid skateboarding through my driveway. I have had that with people riding their bikes, people walking their dogs. No matter what you do, people just want to go through. So I hope that this is a way that people will stop doing that. One thing that really kind of scared me when I was ill, 2023, I just had surgery. I had, drains and all sorts of things inside my stomach still. I was weak. My dog he was outside. He hadn't come in a while, so I went to go check up on him. I opened up that door and somebody was 5 feet away from me standing there looking at me. That's kind of terrifying. So this kind of gives a more of a, delineation of where my property is, that people quit thinking it's just part of the apartments and using it as such. So, and then I thought in the summer it would be a nice place to sit. I have shade there as well. And I spoke to my neighbor about it on that side of my house to make sure she wouldn't be, annoyed by it. It will not affect her home, but I wanted to make sure she was okay with it since she's the one that is the closest to me. And she did sign a piece of paper and say that she was fine with it. It's not going to mess with the sun that's coming in her window. And I just tried to make it so it would conform the best I could and make it so it was nice and add to my property. If you have any questions of me, I'd love to answer it. My statements.
Any questions?
I do. What's going to be the upper part of the carport?
That's gonna be the same roof line,
I know, what's gonna be on the inside?
nothing.
Is there gonna be a ceiling?
Yes, it's just gonna be a roof.
Okay, there's gonna be a ceiling.
Yes, same
and then
materials.
Is there gonna be access
No,
to that area above?
no, it's just gonna be a roof and posts.
So-
So it's gonna be the same, it's not gonna be living space, no.
So there's gonna be ventilated.
Yes,
No, is it just gonna be open, struts in there?
it's gonna be 3
So
posts.
right, but I guess what Bill's wanting to know, are you going to enclose that? Or is it going to be open to the studs or the rafters?
So he was just gonna make like the same roof line,
Right, I
so,
got that. So you're gonna have an 18-foot.
right,
Or 16-foot roof, I believe, ground to peak.
yes, 16-foot,
16
yes,
feet,
Same
16
pitch.
wide, 24 deep, or 25 deep,
yes.
right?
24?
25.
25, it's actually gonna be, I went out with my tape measure, because he had it written on there 24. So I went out with my tape measure and it's the same exact length of the garage. He's gonna have it go directly out, so it matches with the garage.
So it's not 320 square feet? Is it?
If you could picture my garage, where my garage ends, and you go across the driveway, it's literally gonna be right exactly lined up with my garage, exact.
Okay.
I'm not gonna do any, I want it to look exactly the same, and then the 3 posts, and then the roof, but there's no living space in it, just the
Yeah,
roof.
well, that's it, we were asking is, are the rafters gonna be exposed? Is it gonna be vaulted?
It's gonna be,
Or
I'm
are you gonna have a roof or
gonna
a,
have siding, like the same siding and the same
What I
trim.
think he's asking,
No storage.
is if when you're standing in your carport and you look up, will the rafters be exposed or will be an enclosed, ceiling in there?
I believe the way he wrote it is it's gonna be enclosed, but there's gonna be no living space. It's just a roof. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And he'll vent it, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna be open, just a vault, it's gonna be siding.
Right,
The
right,
same
right,
color.
right, I get he's gonna have fascia and stuff
Mhm.
around it on the side facing, Julie's old house, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, but looking up from inside, is it gonna be open?
To the
an open,
To the peak.
Plan, or are you gonna have like a ceiling in there attached to the rafters?
Honestly, we didn't even address that, but if there was one way or another that you would think that it would be acceptable, I would go with that. It doesn't, I don't need living space in there, I just want shade. And I just want,
If it was
That area.
enclosed, it would keep out a bird.
yeah,
If it
'cause the way he drew it,
finished it, but
yeah, the way he drew it, it looked like he was gonna do just that. I didn't ask him the particulars on it. I mean, inside's what I could call him right now if you'd like.
I don't know if that's gonna be a make or break point, I know at the last meeting, some of your other neighbors were here and they expressed concerns about it, disrupting their view looking back across. I believe it was, who were here last night, Joan and William
And Dave. And
and then, Annie's husband,
Dave,
Dave, was here. And they collectively expressed concerns about the changing the looks of the neighborhood and, looking across and seeing a carport, because basically what you're looking to do, once you put a car in there, it's almost gonna be like a garage anyways, it's not gonna be open where you can see through it. Right, if you put your boat and stuff in there and you have a 8-foot fascia or peak, you've got basically a structure that's not, it's open as far as wind and stuff, but it's not open as far as looking through it. You know, it's almost like having, well, it is, it's a unenclosed, stall, additional stall. So they expressed concerns around that, at the last meeting.
And we didn't have good pictures to
Right.
look at.
I would, had I not had surgery or active cancer in me, I would have been here. I didn't know any of this. Nobody ever mentioned any of it.
Yeah.
Or I would have spoke to them one-on-one. If had they asked me, I could have explained it. But I honestly, I see things going on in my neighbor's house. They have their own stuff going on. I never ask. It's their property. They do what they want to do with their property. So I never even, so I find it a little funny that they're concerned with that, because what is their view? The apartments, but that's their prerogative, so.
I think some of their concerns were that it would become a collection, an area of collection,
Yeah.
whether the boat was gonna be stored there over the winter.
Yes.
Those were some of their concerns, or if there would be other things that would accumulate other items, whether it's lawn furniture or whatever.
Right, I would, if I ever used, like, sat out there with chairs or whatever, they would be nice chairs, or if I wanted to do like my grill on the side, but. I'm not one of a collector that's gonna make it look trashy, but I could understand what you mean.
Yeah.
That's
That
definitely
was
not
just, yeah, it was just
my
echoing
MO.
their concerns, the points that they brought up.
Okay. I thought about it maybe in the future to lessen my bills, to put it in there during the winter, but that's not it's not a have to, you know, I see people that do that all over Sackets, but. You know, I'm not one
Well,
to,
we're being in the historic overlay,
yeah,
as Janet knows.
but,
Some things such as changing the color of your house, color of your door, things like that, they all come into play.
right,
And you have to have applications for that. And there's items that are not allowed. You know, it's different. What I found in the historic district is that it's your property, but you don't always have total say what goes into your property. You still have to adhere. You know, you have to have uniformity in the neighborhood. You know, that was the reason, whether that was part of Bayview or not, that was the reason that it was all, that how it was designed. Was that everything wasn't alike, but they all fit,
right.
and nothing really sticks out. That was their only issue.
Okay, I was hoping that with, like, by making it look the same and was neat, that it would add to, not take away from anybody's. You know, I don't want an ugly part of my house either, I would never. So I was trying to do the same exact colors and just have a little space that I could use, you know, if I wasn't allowed to do my boat there in the winter. I guess I wouldn't put my boat there in the winter, but like in the summer, when I have my trailer in my driveway, I thought if I back it up and have it under there, it would appear nicer. You know, I don't plan on putting a bunch of junk under there, that's not me, but I try to keep things tidy.
My only concern is if the other two neighbors do that, then it just about builds a wall across, looking out towards the lake and so forth. You're gonna have continuous structure with maybe 15 feet of green space between each house. And you're gonna be right on top of the property line, correct?
No, it has a couple feet. It would be right on the other side of the driveway. It would be right next to the driveway,
Right, right. How far beyond the driveway is your line?
a couple feet.
It's like 2.5.
Yeah, I think it's
Is it-
2.5, 3.
Okay.
So it'll be inside of that. I'm not gonna
And
go.
then the neighbor's house is, 7. to
Right,
8
so
feet.
the variance would be roughly 5 feet, right? Because you have a 7.5 foot already. And to get to 16, that's another 8.5. 8.5 feet, yeah, 8.5 feet. Plus taking the 2 off, that would be a 6 foot variance, basically.
The only difference between mine and theirs, though, is I'm smashed in the middle. They've got open space on either side, you know?
They don't own the property.
It's open.
They
I
have-
just
they have-
noticed It's open.
It's open, but their property line still, they're only 77 feet. Even though like on the side towards Doris,
Doors.
she still only has, even on the other side, that's still a separate building lot. Or was, now I think somebody bought it for parking. So she really couldn't encroach that way,
No,
because she doesn't own it.
right.
Same thing with Florence on the other side. She can't, because Herringer owns
Not on the other
up to
side.
that side.
Any thoughts, JP?
Yes, I got a couple. A little history, in the submittal. There was a suggestion that Madison Barracks built this, the owners of Madison Barracks, with the drive-through driveway between Brady Road and Bayview Place. That's not true. When the planning board approved these items, or these patio homes, it was the intent at the time to have them back loaded off of Brady Road. Because of all the other things that came into play, they did have a Bayview Place address, but they were to be back loaded. When the driveway first one went in, I remember quite a bit of hullabaloo about it, and it wasn't in the plan, it wasn't approved. And for quite a while, they made them block it. They used to have 3 large, some people may remember that, 3 large planters, so that couldn't be used while they sorted through things. And then I guess it went from one way to the other, and nobody enforces things, and ended up everybody put one in. But it wasn't the original plan. And of course, you can see this poor woman, what's caused by having that thoroughfare through there. That said, they were approved as non-conforming lots now, meaning that they were approved already for half the setback that everybody else is required to have. They were approved for 7.5 instead of 15. So it's already given that advantage. And of course, why that was done is so they could create 3 lots and not just 2, which I guess made sense for them. Near as I can figure, the applicant is asking for a 5.5 foot variance if indeed there's 2 feet left there. Maybe it's 6 feet. There's no real identity of where the property line is. Considering it's non-conforming by design, there's really no hardship here. The hardship is, according to our zoning laws, is self-imposed by the original developer. And of course, when this lady bought this property, she bought the self-imposed hardship. I'm not saying I'm opposed to the structure. I'm opposed, I think, to offering quite this much setback relief when we really haven't done that in the past, and there's no there's no urgency in this. There's no, I don't mean to say urgency, there's no requirement for safety or engineering or wheelchair ramps or anything like that. So I just want that out there. And, you know, we'll let the board discuss it and we'll go from there.
Thanks, JP.
Certainly.
And you, hit on some of the concerns that, I was looking at as well, in that the setbacks and so forth were known at the time of the purchase and so forth. And they're already half from what they normally would be. And again, it's closing up open space that there's little of on that side of the street. Until you get up to, at least out of your 3 houses. So I had some concerns about that, and also setting precedent if the neighbors opted to do the same thing. Because if they are not part of Bayview, then there's nothing to preclude setting precedent by doing so. Where with Bayview Estates, if you grant a variance just by virtue of the covenants, it prohibits it from being a precedent of building and getting those variances and setbacks. Any thoughts, Karen?
So first, a couple things. At our last meeting, when the neighbors came, I understood that they had concerns that they felt they didn't know what was happening, and all of a sudden they felt like this was going through and this is happening, even though the approval is not what we do, right? That's what the planning board does. All we do is either grant or deny the variance request. That's all we do. But they voiced their concerns because they felt this was the only opportunity that they had at the time. So they're not here tonight. I don't know if that means that they felt like they got their questions answered or what. I'm not sure.
I think that they felt that their concerns were on the record.
Okay.
And they didn't need to attend. And yes, the only thing that we look at is the variance. But I think they, by virtue of them not, for whatever reason, paying attention and seeing the notice for the planning board meeting and coming, they came to this meeting, to our meeting, because it was their chance to go against or voice their concerns about granting the variance.
Right. Now, they also raised some issues that then caused us to table the discussion, which was all good stuff because we felt like we didn't have information that we should have. The fact that we still can't find the PDDs is a little frustrating.
Where we may be getting some from Corey Lawler. Mike was trying to get at least their most recent rendering to us, but since the PDD didn't have restrictions and covenants attached to it, the PDD only defined what kind of buildings you could put in there in the uses. So residential, apartment, shops, whatever, and what sections of the thing.
And I do feel like we were able to dig up enough information. I do believe that these 3 homes are not part of Bayview based on the information that I've seen myself and what we were able to find out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand the history of how these homes came about, and I have never thought they fit into the historic district or, Madison Barracks as a whole. So I find it interesting that they even exist, but they do, right? So they're there.
Right.
I don't believe that a carport is going to decrease their historic value because I don't think it exists. I don't think it's there. I understand the, do we set a precedent because a lot of things could happen based on our decision, at least with those 3 properties. And really it only affects the neighbors, right?
Yeah, it doesn't affect us. I mean, we're across the road.
Yeah,
My concern, if this is a 6-foot variance. Does that mean it's gonna go 6 feet closer to Florence's
yeah,
house?
Well, it means that the variance that she has right now is shrunk to 2 feet,
Right,
right? So, yes, so there's only gonna be a 2-foot theoretic swath between the property line.
right. And now, in this case, it is, as JP said, kind of self-imposed, right? This was part of the plan. They were non-conforming lots. They were going to have a lesser setback than a conforming lot. And we have the non-conforming lots because there are a lot of non-conforming lots in Sackets Harbor, but a lot of those are old properties, the historic areas, and these properties are new properties, but they did it, right? It is the way that it is. And we do, well, I say we because now it's a we, even though I've seen lots of variances approved for lots of different reasons. So yeah, that's just kind of what I.
Any thoughts, Floyd?
Yeah, I feel as though we're closing the space between the 2 homes.
There you are.
And, is it gonna kind of jump out at you that it's only 2 feet, 3 feet between the 2 houses or whatever? I think it will. I don't know if there's another way around it, but it just seems that we need to keep in mind the houses on both sides and can you see through it and that sort of stuff was always a part of it. Put a boat in it for a winter, who's gonna care? But if there's 2 cars in the thing during the summer, somebody may say, why didn't you board it up and make it a garage? So
I think again, it doesn't affect us across the street at all, but you're gonna take a structure that's the same height, 18 feet, you're gonna move it 6 feet into the setback, so you're basically gonna be right on top of Florence's with the structure and then the facade across the top. So it's like, as far as her kitchen, and I guess the reason for zoning is that everything stays the same, and when you buy a lot, and this has always been my hang up. That when you buy a lot, you know exactly what the property lines are. That's what it is. Now, like JP said, there was a hardship and it needed a ramp or things that you needed, to basically keep living there. Well, when it's just something that you want, that makes it a little different because it will devalue Florence's house. Because you're gonna move basically right up to her house, close enough.
She has the area where it will be, just to make sure that everybody understands, it's not where her kitchen is. Because our garages are bumped forward, it's actually just her dining room, but it doesn't affect her dining room window or her son.
Right, and I know Florence, you never see her outside.
No,
But it's just the fact that it's gonna be a 320 square foot structure, 18 feet high, 6 feet closer to her house, which already is a very limited space in between the houses.
Could I add one thing,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I concur with what Bill's saying, of course, and Sergeant Floyd. I'm reminded when those zoning laws were written, yes, I'm that old. The reason it was 7.5 and 7.5 was safety. They didn't want any less than 15 feet between potential structures to get a fire truck through there or something like that. Now, I'm not saying that's important. I just think when you put 3 posts in the way, that hinders the neighbors and this applicant's, availability for whatever.
I thought about that, actually, the fire truck can fit through the structure, because I have the ceiling high, the ceiling would be high enough. I did think about that, or like plowing and that kind of thing, I did think about that, that's why I wanted to go as high as the garage, and then the 16 feet is up to the peak, but I do understand
But
what you all
your,
are
your
saying.
opening is only 8 feet high.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's even with the eaves trough.
So, any other comments from the public?
I just want to add that the, non-conforming lot concept, in this case, that's sort of the right of the PDD. When the plan development districts are made, one of the underlying principles is they can change when they request a PDD, they can request to change setbacks, lot minimum, all sorts of regulations, so it allows for more creative development. So that's how those lots were approved, as well as like the Harbor Haven one that sat dormant for years and is now under construction. And a Lawler one as you approach the battlefield, those are, we have 3 plan development districts, so unlike the old lots that are narrow and long and houses are close together, that's the way it was done in the 1800s, but these are by deliberate zoning planning choice and are approved as part of the zoning law, so it is non-conforming, but not really in the sense of the lots downtown.
Right, but it's also non-conforming to get they were given variances, the 7.5 foot setback variance, right? To get it through, and it was a developer that pushed for it so that they could get 3 houses instead of 2 houses in that parcel of land.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Then I'd like to close the public hearing portion of this meeting. And any further discussion with the members? Not, I'd like to do a vote. All in favor? A.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed. Okay. I thank you. The public portion of the meeting is completed. The variance is not approved. And the only thing we have left to do is approve our minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Can you make that motion?
Yeah.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
Okay. Thanks for calling in, JP.
My pleasure. Thank you all for being there.
You have a great day.
You too.
The motion to close this meeting? Motion.
Second.
Okay.
Nice to be on this side of the table.
I want to be on your side.
Yeah.